of Co-op Career and Experiential Education, which is an exceedingly long title, and I apologize for that. It is so happy to be here for this ECI Sustainability. I am going to thank you everyone for coming today. Marilyne, just a brief note of introduction. My name is Andrew Bassingthwaighte. I am the Manager of Career and Curriculum Development here at Brock University.
My name is Marilyne Carrey, and I'm a faculty member here in the Environmental Sustainability Research Center. And I'm also a grad program director, so I'm interested, obviously, in careers in sustainability. The land on which we gather today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people, and acknowledging reminds us that the great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendship of Indigenous people. And that acknowledgement is particularly important to those of us working in the field of sustainability. We refer to it in particular as sustainability science, because an important part of what we do is to engage with various communities, of course, including Indigenous communities, to address the environmental sustainability challenges that we face today. So, thank you.
Wonderful. So, in terms of today's panel, we have a couple of things before we want to get started. For any students, if you haven't checked it in yet, there is a QR code just over there which you can scan so we can record your attendance. For anyone we're going to be here for a couple of hours, so if anyone does need to use the washroom, if you see that lovely red wall behind you, the washrooms are just behind it. Like I said, the panel itself is scheduled to last about an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and a half, depending on the conversation and where everything goes with that discussion. So, and then there will be time for networking afterwards. We do have a few people joining us online. I will wave to you guys. I'm hoping that you can hear us. We checked the sound earlier and it looked like it was working well. So this panel, I will say, is also being recorded as part of the live stream so that we can share some of the conversations that take place later on with a wider audience as well. We do have some lovely panelists that I will introduce briefly, this is the part where I always get nervous because it's like, am I going to pronounce someone's name incorrectly? This is also the part where I lose everybody's name. So immediately to my left, we have Jason Henry, who is a research scientist from Vineland Research and Innovation Center, so just down the road from us. Jason attended Trent University, graduating with a Bachelor of Environmental Science, followed by a master's degree in Environmental and Life Sciences. During his master's program, his research focused on the impacts of pollution on Irish grasslands, herbaceous species. Did I say that one correctly? You're right. Wonderful. Studying relationships between soil characteristics and grassland biodiversity. Right now, he specializes in green infrastructure use in the urban environment. Next to Jason, we have Erin Agro, wonderful, who is part of the growing media group in Walker Industries and is the manager of resource recovery. Got that one right. Erin graduated from, holds 2 master's degrees. Number one is a Master's of Science in Environmental Science from the University of Guelph, but they also hold a Master's of Business Administration from the DeGroote School of Business at McMaster University. Erin is a dynamic leader responsible for driving product innovation, sustainability initiatives, and product quality within Walker's Resource Recovery Division. And I'm sure she'll tell you a little bit more about her role as we move forward. Then we have Allegra Caballero, and I know I mispronounced that one, I apologize. So Allegra is a graduate of the Masters of Sustainability program. They completed a major research paper and was a co-op student as well, and they graduated in June 2025. So a very recent grad. They are currently a program associate in land planning as part of the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority. And as part of their role, they help to support the land planning team in implementing key activities related to land planning, acquisitions, and public engagement. And I'll talk a little bit more about their role. And then last, but certainly by no means least, we have Amy Lemay. Amy is the founder of VISTA Science and Technology. They are also an adjunct professor in the Environmental Sustainability Research Center and Department of Geography and Tourism Studies here at Brock University. As the founder of VISTA, Amy has been providing strategic advice on driving the development, commercialization, acceptance and adoption of agri-innovations to Canada's agri-food sector for more than 25 years. So we are very happy to have each and every one of you here today. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules. We do appreciate it. Before we get started with our panel, though, I am going to turn it back over to Marilyne to talk a little bit more about the Masters of Sustainability program and the story behind it.
Thank you, Andrew. I think it's important for us to kind of set the context of the discussion around sustainability, because that is such a broad term. Here at the university, when we're doing our work and in our programs, and some of the names of our programs are around sustainability science. And back in the late 1900s, some of you may not have been around, but sustainable development was really the conversation when I was in grad school. And we've slowly migrated, and I think really nicely migrated towards sustainability science, which is really harnessing the knowledge of scientists along with society to try to come up with co-created solutions to the challenges that we face. And what's really important about addressing the challenges we face is that we come at it from a transdisciplinary space. So it's not just academics, but we also look to engage with community partners, Indigenous groups, for example, and others, Niagara Parks Commission, Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority, and many other partners to look at the sort of problems that we face. So we're very problem focused and solutions oriented in the work that we do. So I think it's really important to just set that context. From day one, students in either our Master of Sustainability or our PhD in Sustainability Science are engaging with community through experiential education opportunities, through research assistantships. Eventually, they finish that work and may end up being hired into a co-op position, which has happened quite frequently in our programs. And then they may also pursue research-based pathway in our program, completing either a major research paper or a thesis. And Allegra is a great example of someone on the panel who's an alum from our Master of Sustainability program who went through that experience and can answer questions around the co-op piece. So I think it's really important just to make that note. Interestingly, the partners that we have often end up hiring the students coming out of our program, right? So we've had 95+ success rate in employment opportunities immediately after graduation, which we think is really fantastic. And of course, I look into the audience and also see alumni here who went through our program and are now working in this space. So it's not just that they're being employed, but they're also being employed in the field of sustainability and sustainability science. So we think that's really key. We think the kind of competencies around sustainability science are different. Not everybody fully understands what sustainability is. So I know you're all working in that challenging space and having to communicate what you do and work across often many disciplines. We laugh, and I spoke with Dr. Tang, who's part of our center earlier today, around the challenges. And she mentioned, sometimes you're at the table with an anthropologist and a physicist, and you're trying to find a language to kind of come together. So one of those core competencies is kind of intervening and mediating conversations around these challenging topics that we face. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Marilyne. And I know as we continue and go into the panel and have conversations, we're going to talk a little bit more about competencies and skills within the industry. But as I promised, I want to give our panelists a little bit of space to talk about their roles and what they do on the day-to-day. So Jason, I'm going to turn to you to begin with, and then everyone else can chip in afterwards. But can you kind of give everyone an overview of what a day in your life looks like? What do you work on? What do you accomplish in your role day-to-day?
Perfect. So my name is Jason Henry. I'm a research scientist at Vineland. I've been there for over 12 years now. I started out as a technician right out of school from Trent University, and then kind of moved my way up through the chain. Vineland's a unique organization, so I guess before I step into kind of my day-to-day role, I can explain a bit about Vineland itself. So Vineland's a not-for-profit research organization really centered on the horticultural industry, looking at ways to provide economic stability, especially during times where unfortunately some instability happens, in environmental sustainability. So Vineland has kind of one research group and 5 different divisions within it. We have a sensory panel, a consumer and sensory panel. We have a biochemistry team. We have my department, or a department that I work in, plant responses and the environment. And then we have a biocontrol team and an engineering team. So it's a lot of researchers really centered in one area. In my research, under the plant responses, the environment team is really centered on soil health and sustainability. So really building the foundation for how crops or any types of plants grow, from green roofs to greenhouses to field crops. It doesn't matter to me, as long as the roots are healthy, they have access to water, air, nutrients, and living organisms. That's what I focus on. So my day-to-day has kind of shifted a lot over the first kind of 12 years. I first started out in my career kind of running all the samples. So every day was prepping soil samples, substrate samples, running them in the lab. So I focused on that. And then as I kind of grew within the company, my roles have kind of shifted a bit. We developed and launched a soil and health substrate laboratory where we can help participants kind of, if they have an issue. We work with a lot of municipal foresters. Tree failure is pretty high, and so we developed systems in place for that. Now that I'm a research scientist, a lot of my role, ironically, and I ask my employees about it, is answering emails, taking phone calls, and really projecting us for the future. So a lot of my team, and we've hired 2 people from the sustainability program, they focus on usually on the day-to-day tasks for the first 3 months. My focus is 3 months to 1 year away. And what can we do? Where is the industry going? Projecting where future problems are going to go. And so a lot of my work right now is identifying issues, working with industry partners, taking a lot of calls, listening to people's problems, and then trying to find solutions for them. So that's kind of a lot of my day-to-day role.
Wonderful.
Awesome. I'll jump in. So thanks everyone for being here and for listening to us for an hour. So I hope you guys are going to get a lot out of it. So my role at Walker is basically trying to turn a waste into a resource. I manage the team that is responsible for the product development, the R&D, and the quality assurance of all of our products that we manufacture. My specific area of interest is growing media, so we actually do a lot of work with Vineland, sending them for samples, but growing media being the professional space, so in nurseries, in greenhouses, and then also we produce and manufacture soil for retail, like in bags. So if you go to a Walmart and you pick up a bag of soil, it's likely that that material is originated from one of our Walker facilities. Along those lines, because Walker is, our slogan is building a sustainable future together, we are continually looking for new and innovative materials that reduce reliance on extractive materials. So traditional horticultural substrates consist of peat or sphagnum peat moss, which once harvested takes about 10,000 years to actually regrow, or perlite, which is another extractive resource. We are looking to create and innovate growing media products that reduce reliance on these extractive resources by using bark or wood-based substrates or compost. So the team that I manage runs the trials. We work with our customers to ensure that we're creating those professional grade products that are more sustainable. And we also do work revolving around life cycle analysis to actually stand behind our claims that those materials are more sustainable than what you would traditionally see. So similar to Jason, I don't actually get to do any of the fun stuff anymore. But as I said, I manage a team of about 8 people in total now, and they do all of the hands-on work, and I'm just there to help put out fires and guide. But yeah, it's fun stuff.
I feel like no matter what role you're in, the higher up you get, the more emails that you have to deal with.
Yes,
just in general.
For sure.
Awesome. Allegra, let's go to you.
Yeah, so my name is Allegra. I work at the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority. I'm on their land planning team. My official title is the Program Associate on the land planning team, and I basically I'm support to the team for whatever tasks or needs that they might have related to like land planning, land management, land acquisition, things like that. I did start off at the authority in a co-op student position, so I'm in my second contract with them now, so I've only been working with them for about 10 months in total, which I'm lucky. So for me, it's kind of weird. So no day is the same. I wish I could share some consistencies that I do, but honestly, like our team, we have a lot of ongoing projects that can take years, or like I guess even a decade to complete, depending on the size of the project that we're working on. And since I have a supporting role, I could be doing anything from, working on a particular management plan, so like document writing, to being in meetings all day with, like internal staff or municipal partners. Or I could be going out to one of our conservation areas and doing something more fun, like invasive species management or mapping or things like that. So I tend to take care of some of the smaller but still important tasks on my team. So some of the tasks that can not be overlooked, but something that can might be missed if no one stays on top of it. So managing our team's planner and things like that, scheduling meetings and sending out emails and things like that, managing our team's general land planning email as well. Just some of the smaller items, but things that still have to happen in order to keep the momentum going on our projects that we're working on. So.
Lovely. Amy.
Thank you. So my days, very similar to Allegra's, one day is not the same as the next. And I could find myself, as a business owner, I tend to have a number of different functions, managing, administrating, and then operations. So I cover marketing, networking, I cover all of those. And so as you can imagine, my days are pretty full trying to fit all that in. So, I could find myself working on doing a literature search on Web of Science in the morning. And the next time after lunch, I could be working in an Excel spreadsheet trying to filter it. We're working on a spreadsheet right now that has 50,000 records in it. We're trying to filter it to find its funding data, and we're trying to find agri-food genomics funding data from that. This is NSERC's funding for the last 25 years. I could be writing a quote for a client. I could be working on a research proposal. The interesting thing about my company is we are consultants and we are also private independent researchers. So I have consulting projects and I have research grants. I'm working on two OMAFA research grants right now, as well as a number of consulting projects. I could do market research. One of the consulting work that we do is to work with researchers to help them position their research outcomes, the technology that come out of the research for downstream impact. So in a lot of cases, we have to look at what's the market look like for whatever technology this researcher might be developing to help them commercialize it and to position it within the market. I could be, like I said, writing a proposal. I could be having a debate with someone at one of my funders about what eligible costs I get to claim. I could be doing budget reports. So one day definitely is not the same as the other, but the days are always interesting. And I have to say, a lot of fun. I really enjoy the work that I do. The work is a niche kind of company or service that we provide. As Andrew mentioned, we work with the agri-food sector on driving the adoption of agri-innovations, and whatever that entails. It's a very broad concept, but it's also very specific and a niche kind of role. And I've been working, I started the business, I actually started the business, the concept of the business started in 1998. And again, as you mentioned, in the late 1900s. But anyway, and it started as a co-managed business unit of Brock University and Niagara College to provide scientific support to small businesses through a government program who were getting government funding to do innovative product development, and we helped them to understand the latest science out there to support their product development. And that project started in 1998 between Brock and Niagara and Agri-Food, and in 2005 I spun it out as my own company, private company.
Awesome. Thank you all. So as you can see, we've got a wide range of experiences and knowledge. I want to turn the conversation around to some technical skills and competencies that you use in your day-to-day. And already we're kind of hearing about adaptability being a big one, because for a couple of you, no day is the same. You're constantly changing what you're doing. So Allegra, I'm going to start with you in terms of what are the professional or technical skills that have been most helpful to you in your current position?
So most helpful would definitely be communication skills. So you need to learn how to communicate, well, especially me, like when you're starting a new position, every organization is different. So you have to learn how you can communicate with like your colleagues, so like the internal staff who are a part of that organization, but then also how to communicate with external partners, because they might not be on the same, like they might not have the same abilities, like how you would communicate with your colleagues. So like, for example, we use Teams and like Outlook and things. Well, I'm sure everyone has Outlook, but Teams and SharePoint and things like that. And you might not be able to share files with external partners in the same way that you would share with your colleagues. So learning how to communicate is very important, especially when you're working collaboratively on the same thing. So yeah, also organization is important as well. So, keeping yourself on track, and for me, trying to keep my team on track as well, especially when you have a lot of things happening at the same time and long-term projects, things pop up that you might not be expecting. So like you could go months without touching a particular project, and then all of a sudden something comes up and it's like, oh, okay, now I gotta change gears and focus on that. And, a good understanding of project management is helpful as well. And then for me, just being able to, being able to learn. So being able to go off on your own and research. So if I don't know something, I need to be able to, to be sure that I know how to find the answer. So.
And I'm just going to follow up on that one, because obviously you're a recent grad from the sustainability program. How have you seen the skills that you've gained from the sustainability masters translate into your day-to-day work?
So I feel like in my master's, so I was obviously able to learn from a lot of experienced professionals, people like Marilyne, and we did some co-op preparation courses as well. Being able to have conversations with our talent coaches also helped. So they kind of gave us foundations of everything that we needed to know. But obviously when you're going into the industry, applying them is going to be different. It's kind of up to the individual, I say, to figure out how you're going to apply different tools and techniques that you've learned, because the only way you're going to know how to do that and get better at it is to actually go out and try. So even if you don't nail something right away, you just got to kind of keep working at it, I guess, and tweak things and find like a process, if you want to call it that, find the best way to do it and find what works best for you. So
Wonderful. Okay. I'm going to open the question to the rest of the panel if anyone else wants to chip onto that one.
I can hop in. So in terms of skills, my role currently bridges both, like having both science and business. So the foundation of my career was actually built on science and like the scientific method, and using that to create studies which validate product quality. But ultimately, in a company such as Walker, we're not going to go down a pathway and invest on a new innovative product just because it's more sustainable. It's creating a strategic plan that aligns with what consumers are looking for, what trends in the industry are looking for. So I think as you progress in your career, to not just have blinders on and solely focus on, okay, I'm really into science, I'm going to set this trial up just so that it validates that this product works well, because that doesn't matter if you're developing a product or a service that consumers won't utilize. So broadening your, understanding, whatever job you get, understanding what the overarching strategy of your department is and how the work you do on a daily basis contributes to that, and not just like what you're looking at that given time. So I'm not sure if that's a skill. I think it's something that you can develop over time, but yeah, obviously we're still honing your technical background, and I think that's very important, but understanding also, the broader picture and strategy development as well as you continue along your career. That was a little vague, I apologize, but yeah.
And I think that's one of the challenges when you kind of leave the pure science environment and go into a more business-focused environment. Mm-hmm. There has to be that little bit of a mindset shift, no matter what role that you're in.
Absolutely, yeah.
Awesome.
I'll jump in because my work is very similar, balancing the science with the business side of things. And so I come from a science background as well. My undergraduate masters are in agricultural entomology. I waited 25 years to do my PhD. I started in 2011, finished in 2018, and I did it in the social sciences. And let me tell you, the skills between a science degree and a social science degree are completely different. It's funny because I have staff who are from a science program, and I've got them doing qualitative analysis and trying to train them to understand what we mean by an interpretive analysis. Trying to explain to a scientist what an interpretive analysis is, qualitative. I can see the look on their face, and I think the reason why I can do it is because I've gone through it myself and I understand the difficulties in making that transition. On top of that, having the marketing background and the business background, learning those skills. And I think the most important thing about any kind of skill, whether it's a soft skill like organizational communication, time management, or a technical skill, is to always be developing new skills. Clearly, I've been around for a while. Just to give you a bit of a comparison, when I was in my undergrad, we carried around 6-inch floppy disks that we put into the computer drive that had DOS on it, and I don't know if everybody remembers. DOS is the operating system. You put the DOS in, and it loaded up on the computer. You took it out, and then you put your software, whatever software package you're using, on the floppy disk, put that in. And so you can imagine the skills that I've had to learn and let go of. Unlearning a skill is just as important. Unlearning an old skill that doesn't serve you any longer is just as important as learning a new skill. And that's really important because my work in knowledge mobilization, technology transfer, adoption of new technologies, a big part of getting people or farmers or anyone else to adopt a new technology is to get them to let go of the old thing that they've been doing. So the best advice I could say about skills is to always be learning new skills, especially right now. I'm learning AI, I'm learning digital, and I couldn't run my business without them. But if you'd asked me 10 years ago about AI, I don't think anybody would have been able to respond to AI 10 years ago. But the fact is, you have to be always evolving in order to stay relevant in the business world.
And I'd also say, kind of like piggybacking on that, like, don't be afraid to admit that you're wrong. And, you know, we've had co-op students come in and be like, well, this is how we used to do it, or this is what they taught us, or whatever. Every single job that you have is going to want to see you do something different or translate that data in a different methodology. And being open to those changes makes you more amenable to growth and gives you sort of that, you know, attention that you need. Okay, well, the individual that is basically unflexible and doesn't want to work with you is not going to move up the ladder as someone's like, okay, that's a challenge. I acknowledge that's a challenge, but I'm here to learn and grow. And you're not going to know 100% of any job, and it will always change. So keep learning those skills and be open to changing.
Anything to add?
Yeah, so going back to Allegra's point about communication, that's a huge part of kind of what I look for with our team. We work with green roof providers, municipal foresters, engineers, growers to suppliers. So we work with different parts in different organizations. And what we've learned, and I've learned for the past 12 years, is that everyone has their own lingo, everyone has their own acronyms, and your acronyms might be completely different than, and engineers are the worst. They have their own language that we speak, but we need to learn it, we need to adapt to it, but also respecting people's time too. So when we work with a grower, their schedules are a lot different than mine. If we work with a farmer, their schedules. So a lot of what I do is kind of learning another person's communication style first, and then kind of training people in our team to communicate. Because one of the biggest problems or biggest failures for a lot of research projects that we can lead is usually on the communication side. And so making sure that we have kind of a common language almost is the first step, so then we can kind of translate that information to them. The communication is a big one, and then organization and project management.
Wonderful, thank you everyone. Going to move on to another question, and Erin, I'm going to start with you on this one, and you've already started to talk a little bit about it, so thank you for jumping the gun on that, we appreciate that. But what were some of the, when you think back over your career, what were some of the professional challenges that you've encountered along your journey, and how did you approach or overcome these challenges?
Yeah, honestly, I jumped the gun on that one, and Amy, I think you literally took my answer for this question, your other question, but it speaks to how important it is. When I started my position at Walker, I had only ever done consulting or science-based jobs in the past, and now I'm there creating business models and calculating net present value, and I was like, what is the point of this? What is this? This is so silly. And so for me, it was like completely reframing how I think. Like, and that's actually why I decided to go back to school and get my MBA, because, you know, I was training at my master's in science, and it was very difficult for me to see like the value from a business proposition. But taking a step back, in sustainability, the biggest way to move the needle is to showcase that there is a business value associated with the transition from one product or one way of doing things to another. And so I think it's important for everyone that's working in sustainability, and I'm kind of reiterating what I said previously, but having that technical basis so that you can validate what your suggestion is, but then understanding how that's going to implicate or impact, the business from like a revenue standpoint or a financial standpoint to move that needle and to make those changes. Yeah, so sorry, you got that answer twice, but it honestly is so, it's so important. And literally I've been at Walker for 8 years. And I think it just was like in the last 2 years that it finally clicked, because I was always going to my boss like, oh man, we got this super cool project. We're going to solve greenhouse waste problems. And they're like, okay, well, why? Like, why does Walker want to invest in that? I'm like, well, we're going to make a difference. Okay. And it, Walker is always standing behind really exciting, innovative projects, but ultimately you're a business and we're trying to make money. So it's like connecting the two in a way that is functional and usable for whatever organization you end up working with.
And I will say, Erin, while Erin did do her MBA at Mac, Brock does have a nice MBA program. So once you're done with this master's,
There you go.
I'm going to open this up to the rest of the panel, because obviously you're all at different stages of your career. So what have been some of the challenges that you faced?
I can go in first. So one of the big things that I needed to learn over the past 12 years is being okay with failure. And that was the biggest thing that I've learned, is that when I came out of my master's program, things were competitive. You're always going for funding, going for you want the best result possible. But on the flip side, working at Vineland, we're a research and development center, and a lot of the things that we research doesn't have much research behind it. So we may be the first ones or the second organization to kind of touch a project where things didn't go well in another company's, in their research portfolio. So some of our not failures, but my kind of key learnings on this is that we will be testing a product with not much information behind it and actually try to grow plants with it. A lot of the things we focus on are sustainability, so waste conversion. So taking one person's waste and making it some person's treasure, usually for the grower side. When you think about it for, let's say, sulfur for agricultural fields, that used to be a waste product, but now it's huge in our agricultural field. So we take a lot of these waste products and then we try to apply it. So usually, I would say if it's perfect, the first experiment works, but sometimes it takes 3 or 4 iterations. And so each step of failed plants and killing plants is kind of one step closer to success. And sometimes it's kind of surprising to see that you have all the best information, the best kind of decisions that you make at the time to do that, and then it goes wrong. And so it's learning from kind of those challenges and then readapting, retrying, retrying. And sometimes it takes 1 year, sometimes it takes 2 years. And so it's a slow process, but being okay with those challenges.
I can go off that. So for me, I think the biggest challenge I faced, and still do face sometimes because I'm still pretty new in my position. The hardest thing for me to do is admit when I don't know something and ask for help. So, when you're starting a new position at a new company, especially when you're out of school, like you're a recent graduate and you're entering like the workforce for the first time, you obviously want to seem as professional and proficient as possible. So being able to admit to someone that you don't know how to do something and ask for help can be really hard. I mean, like, especially if you're brand new. I mean, you just had a long interview process to prove to your employer that you're the best candidate for this position, So when I started out there at the Conservation Authority, it was difficult for me to ask for help because I didn't want to seem like I didn't know what I was doing, or, she's too young, or she might not be as qualified for this position as we thought she was, especially when it was something small that probably wasn't that important at the time. So like learning how to use scheduling assistant to book a room for the first time, like small things like that can be kind of scary to ask questions about. So there wasn't anything I could really do to resolve that issue right away, but working there more, obviously the more experience that I have working there, the less I kind of feel that nervousness, if you want to call it that. and having regular check-ins with my manager, conversations with like colleagues and stuff helps with that as well. But if that happens, and sometimes it does, like especially if I'm doing something for the first time or learning a new skill or a new way of doing things, I remind myself that, okay, so I haven't been fired yet, so that's good. Everyone learns at their own pace. There's no, there's definitely a wrong way of doing something, but there are multiple right ways of doing something. So just because I do something a little bit differently than someone else in my office doesn't mean I can't do it that way. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means I'm doing things in my own way, and I still get it done, which is great. Also, it's fantastic. I can remind myself that I'm part of a team, as small as it may be. So I never have to work on something alone, which is nice. I always have support systems and people who I can ask or turn to for help when I can't figure something out on my own, because obviously, I'll try and figure it out myself first, but if I can't, then I can ask people for help. And when you don't know something, it's good to ask your manager too, especially when you've already tried to find the solution, and if you still can't, then you can go to them, and I think it demonstrates your coachability, and it demonstrates your desire to be better. I think it's better to try something and fail at it than to just not try it at all, because what are you going to learn from that? So,
Maybe I'll jump in here. I know most of you are shocked that I've been able to stay almost completely silent for 30 minutes without
it's been almost 40.
exploding. But I want to build on something that Allegra said and something that we panelists talked about in our kind of pre-panel meeting. So I think it's so important when we're thinking about professional challenges and sustainability. First of all, we struggle in communicating because many of us are coming from various different disciplinary backgrounds where the acronyms are different, the language is different. And in addition to that, you have these other challenges around understanding each other when we're sort of rigidly tied to our belief systems around certain things, especially topics in sustainability like climate change and the climate crisis, right? And we're communicating with people who have very different opinions or attitudes about these pieces, and also come from a wide range of backgrounds, right? And so we've spent in our center and in our courses a lot of time talking about equity, diversity, inclusion, accessibility, anti-racism, and helping ourselves, our students. We've set out training around having conversations that are really difficult, that tackle really different challenges, so that we can all come to this space and feel safe enough to share our thoughts, right? To share what we understand, and to be in that space where we know that other people will help us work through these challenges, right? And that at times we may need to be calling in or calling out certain behaviors in the space to better allow for people to speak. Simple example is now people are more aware of days of significance, right? And understanding that there are practices for certain groups that are, let's say it's an event around food, and maybe people are observing a day of significance that day, can't engage in that. Just an awareness of that. And a lot of people will say to me, yeah, but we can't keep everybody happy. And I want to make the point that I think is really important, that it's not about anyone's happiness. It's about everyone at the table feeling included, and that we've made an effort to do that, right? And I think that allows these diverse groups to come together and engage in really genuinely solving the problems that we're trying to face, right? So, or that we have to face. we don't have a choice. Okay, thanks.
Amy.
So I'm going to say one challenge that does come to mind is the idea of learning to be an entrepreneur. I came out of a science program. I never considered having a business, owning my own business, until it was dropped on me. And so that was a real challenge, was figuring out how to manage a business and to keep it going for more than 20 years. That's required a lot of adaptation and a lot of pivoting. There's been, over the last 25 years, there's been a lot of changes. I can give you one example of what was a drastic change. And I'm gonna get a little bit political here, but I can't help it. In the transition.
Difficult conversations.
Yeah, in the transition to the Stephen Harper government, that government made some major changes to science funding. And a lot of scientists were let go from the federal government. And those scientists then became competitors to the business that I was running. And a lot of my business was coming from federal science-based departments and agencies. And these people had the inside sort of foot in the door once they got let go. And that changed the competitive landscape of my business. And I had to pivot. We lost a lot of business over that course in time. And also too, a lot of the science-based department and agencies who I was working with changed their focus in terms of commercialization, technology transfer, and again, so that cut down on the business. And so I had to pivot and change the way that I did business to adapt to that and to stay in business and keep going. So that was a definite challenge. And a totally different perspective, one of the most challenging things, and to this day it is still a challenge for me, is networking. I am not an extrovert person. I enjoy spending time alone. And the thought of going into a networking situation is terrifying, but you can't run a business without networking, marketing and networking. And so I've had to find ways and strategies to overcome that challenge of networking. And I can't say that I'm perfect, but I'm better at it now.
And you're here.
And you're here, and we will be forcing you to have it.
Whether you like it or not.
So if during the networking portion you do see Amy running, don't fall. Amy, I'm gonna stick with you for a moment for our next question, because what you've been saying I think is really important, and I love the fact that your business VISTA started out with helping organizations and helping individuals adapt to what at the time was the current science at the time and what is the current science now. And you've already given a couple of good examples of that. But the question I want to ask to you, but also to the group, is how do you incorporate change making in terms of sustainability in the environment in your role right now, particularly given some of the current crises that you face? I mean, you've already talked about politics in the Stephen Harper era. We are facing similar challenges now, both here and across the border. So, considering what some of the current crises are, how do you invest in that change making? What does that look like for your role and you as an individual in this field?
So the interesting part about that question is, I think that because of the research aspect of my business, I'm one of those change makers. My research is developing new ways of getting people to adopt new science, and I'm coming up with, new understandings of how that happens. But at the same time, some of the consulting work I do requires me to be on the leading edge of new science. And so we're constantly shifting, constantly changing our mind about what's a best practice. Let me give you an example from agriculture. The best practice right now, currently, is no-till. You don't go into a field with a tiller and till it up into these fine granules. When I did my undergraduate degree, you want the soil to have really fine pebbles with, and you had to till it over. My grandfather had his own garden, and every spring we had to go in and dig that garden over. Now, with advances in understanding soil health, we know that you want to leave that soil as untouched as possible because of all the root systems and the microbiome in that soil. And so and that's a very basic sustainable agricultural practice. And so we need to be able to pivot. And again, go back to unlearning. old knowledge and learning new knowledge. And so we're constantly changing our mind. We have a project right now, we're doing, for all intents and purposes, it's a systematic review on micronutrients in corn and soybean production in Ontario. And we're literally going back to the 1970s in our searches, and we want to see how micronutrient practices have shifted and recommendations have shifted over the last, 50 or 60 years. So again, we're going to be looking at making changes, and one of the reasons for this project is to update current recommendations on micronutrient practice for farmers in corn and soybean. So it's constantly changing in terms of reacting to the new science and new knowledge and new evidence.
I'm going to open it up to the rest of the panel in terms of your roles and how this impacts you.
Yeah, I would just say, similar to what Amy was saying, decisions surrounding sustainability and incorporating change have to be validated with current data. So we partner with a lot of research institutions, Brock, Vineland, University of Guelph, to really validate those changes and promote that acceptance, not only internally, but externally with our customers and the people that utilize our services. And again, just having those data-driven decisions. So for example, we released a new product this year. It's wood fiber for use in growing media as a replacement to sphagnum peat moss, which is has been around since forever. And we worked with SEREG. They're I can't remember what the acronym stands for, but they're the leading life cycle analysis company, I think, in Canada. They're based out of Montreal. And we did that full data analysis to prove that our wood fiber is actually 89% more environmentally friendly. It releases 89% less carbon than peat in the environment, and that really helped to drive that change. So it's not us just saying it, it's validated by the data. And as sustainability professionals, you will have to continue to validate those changes moving forward. So data is key. Data is king.
I think for me, change is often slow, change is fast, change is sometimes confusing. We work in a lot of different areas in different markets. And so for me, my big specialty is soil health and really focusing on making the soil a living ecosystem. So we have physical components, chemical components, and biological components. But one of the big things that we've worked in is on the municipal forestry side, so putting trees into the ground, building up our canopy. The ash was a good example of why we can't have monocultures for it. Ash was a great species. You could plant it in almost concrete and it will thrive and live and be happy. But when we're looking at diversification and getting kind of urban foresters to adopt change, it was almost teaching them something about soil science that they've never been taught before. And so when I say sometimes change is slow, sometimes it's the first step is one, how to collect the soil sample. And then step two, how to analyze the soil sample. And then who should you be trusted to provide the recommendations? So I've been at Vineland for 12 years, and kind of in my 12-year role, that was one of the biggest things, was to get kind of municipalities to look at their foundation that they're planting and focus on that, and then diversify your tree species. So Vineland I'm gonna get the year wrong now, I think 2021 maybe, we launched a research consortium because a lot of different people in the urban value chain for trees had the same questions. Why are my trees dying? Who's to blame? What can we do about it? And so right now we have 25 member organizations that have kind of those similar questions, a lot of municipalities. And through that organization, we kind of teach people the importance of sampling soil, planting different types of trees. So when I say change is slow, sometimes it takes teaching someone a new technique and new knowledge set, and then having them adapt it and run with it. And then change is sometimes confusing because you've been doing something for 20 years. Now you're saying, hey, it's wrong. We just learned that it was wrong, but please trust us on that. And then in 20 years from now, you'll find out, oh, that's also wrong too. So it's also,
You won't be here to see it. So.
Yeah, but that's why sometimes change is confusing too. So change is always constant. Change for me is always constant. And with climate change, change is getting more and more demanding. And we need to be quicker at it, but it's sometimes hard to take those changes.
And like Amy was saying, you're not only are you trying to unlearn something, but you're also now having to teach other people how to unlearn something as well.
Yeah.
Allegra.
I don't think I have very much to say. I mean, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm still so new in my position and at the Conservation Authority that and new as a professional too. I feel like I haven't encountered change as much as I have just encountered things. So, you know, at some point down the line, when I become used to doing something, I do expect and hopefully be able to anticipate changing how I do something. But I mean, for right now, like I kind of think of myself as like a sponge. So I'm just kind of put in somewhere and I'm just trying to absorb as much as I possibly can and, you know, go into new experiences and new things with an open mind and, you know, hope for the best, expect change or something like that, you know. Yeah, just have a backup plan if you think you might need one. Be willing to consider new approaches to things that you've done in the past but might need to change.
Well, sticking with you, Allegra, I know you've talked already a little bit about the importance of talking to people and learning from people. But, you know, as you're also a recent grad as well, when you look at that shift from post-secondary to your career, what has been the thing that's helped guide your decisions along the way and help keep you motivated?
Yeah, so I think the biggest motivator for me is simply just seeing the success of other people around me. So like the success of my colleagues, you know, my manager, partners that we work with, the success of, you know, like people in my previous professors, not my old professors. You know, seeing the success of, you know, other alumni. So like, sorry to single you out, Rebecca, you know, seeing her success and, you know, the success of other people that I still continue to work with on a daily basis. So, you know, like Erin and, you know, Sydney McIntyre and Jillian Booth. So seeing where they are now kind of motivates me to also be successful because, you know, I see some of the great things that other people are working on and I'm like, huh, that's really cool. I want to do that too, and then I try to do it, you know, so, yeah, I think that's probably been the biggest motivator for me, and then having guidance as well, because I can still turn to those people for guidance and support, and things like that as well, so, important to me as well.
And I think I can, Marilyne, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but and I will share this with students, like, one of the things professors I always hear about is they love to hear back from former students. They love it when former students reach out, either just to say hello or just for some advice or guidance, because it shows them that you're still thinking about them and they obviously influenced you in some way, shape, or form, but they love that connection as well because it helps them stay connected to the industry and to what's happening. So they still learn from you from that perspective as well.
And to add on sorry.
No, I just think this is a great opportunity to share that a colleague here, Dr. Julia Baird, who's working right now with one of our PhD students, developing an alumni network so that we have a more formalized network. We absolutely love that, but we also want to really cultivate this environment where they're also sharing with each other all of these rich experiences, right, about the workplaces they're in and or have been and are going to. we'll have more to say about that in the days ahead and promote that, that piece because we see it's so tremendously valuable. And of course, Allegra knows that also we're here to support, as faculty, we're here to support you on your journey too, right?
And I still reach out to my professor too. 12 years later, I still, if I have a complex problem that I can't think of some solutions to, you're my first go-to. And so that's the big thing.
Yeah.
Same. I actually reach out to you and say, do you have any students we can hire? So yeah, form those relationships because your professionals are also really well connected to industry. So get involved, ask them to volunteer in their lab with their, well, you guys are master's students, but you know, volunteering really does help build your repertoire of skills as well. Yeah, and just like to circle back to that question, you know, what's kept me motivated? I think what I've found being in the environmental sciences and the sustainability profession is that everyone that chooses this career path is inherently super motivated by all the terrible things that are happening to our environment. And so for me, it's really easy to stay motivated because every day I'm like, man, we've got to do this work. You know, it's not like someone chooses sustainability because they're like, man, I'm going to get a red seal trade after this and I'll be, you know. So you do have to keep at it. And it was like when I graduated my undergrad, it was like back in 2009, and that was like the first recession, and it was impossible to find a job. So I would like volunteer with professors and then work on the side. But the last thing I wanted to do after spending all that time and all that hard work learning how to make a difference was to default to another job. You know, a lot of my friends took serving jobs or started working in real estate. And I was like, no, my goal is work in the environmental career and just keep that passion and keep persisting and it will pay off. And I'm, you know, everyone always says that and you're like, yeah, whatever. But honest to God, if 100% is true, you just have to stay dedicated to, you know, yourself and keep, you know, your values are important as well, and just, yeah, know your own worth.
This is where I will also plug the supports available by Co-op Career and Experiential Education, because this is part of what we do. Like we support students in their career development needs. Students think when they graduate, they no longer get help, but that's not true. You have at least, you know, once you graduate, you still can access our services for up to a year, sometimes even more, to get support and guidance with your job search, with your overall career development. So those are supports that are available to you. And obviously, if you're in the co-op program, you have the co-op team that are dedicated to supporting and helping you as well. So there's a lot of resources, a lot of supports available to students. So take advantage of them. Amy, I'll go to you because you are probably the most experienced, shall we say, on the panel?
Sure. So the one way I could describe my career path has been unpredictable and nonlinear. From the earliest memory I have, I've always been drawn to science. So science has always been something that sort of my North Star. When I did my undergrad, I went to Guelph. I was registered in the human kinetics program, but my plan was to get into veterinary college. When I first spoke to the counselor or support services, they said to me, you're not getting into OVC in human kinetics, and you're not getting into OVC without large animal experience. I had worked for a vet through high school. They said, you need to go into the agriculture program. I went, okay. I mean, when I was in high school, no guidance counselor ever targeted agriculture science as a potential area for study. And I can remember coming home after my first year, and for some reason, one of our local MPP offices called me, and I remember being on the phone saying, oh yeah, I'm in an agriculture degree at the University of Guelph. And I remember getting off the phone and my mother saying to me, don't tell people you're in agriculture, they're gonna think you're gonna be a farmer. And so, again, not a sort of discipline that, you know, was compelling, but I can tell you, it was the beginning of a very exciting journey. And one of the things that keeps me motivated is I did my undergrad and master's back to back, as I mentioned. And I remember telling myself near the end of my master's, I've spent so much time training myself to be a skilled scientist. I am not going to take a job that I don't love. And so that has motivated me for the last 25, 30 years, is if I'm going to do something for 8, 9, 10 hours a day, I have to love it. And I did spend a lot of time training myself to not love what I'm doing. And so that has, again, been motivating. And another thing, I talked about this in our pre-panel session, I did a strategic planning course back in the late 1990s. And the one thing that I took away from that, there was a quote that came up on one of the slides. And the quote was, and I don't remember who, I can't sort of attribute the quote to anybody, but it was, the most important thing is to be prepared to sacrifice who you are for who you can become. And that has guided my decisions in this very non-linear career path that I've had, is when an opportunity comes up, change is not easy. It's really easy to stay in the same thing year after year after year. But when an opportunity comes up and it's a risk, I say to myself, where could I end up if I take this risk, if I take this opportunity? Sometimes it's worked out and sometimes it hasn't. For the most part, it's worked out. So just, be prepared to sacrifice who you are for who you can become. And that'll, good advice.
And just one thing I want to touch on, because you mentioned that, taking risks is important, and sometimes the risk will pay out and sometimes the risk doesn't. But you'll still learn, even when the risk doesn't pan out, you'll still learn something from it, and you'll still grow as a result of it.
You'll still become someone else, and you'll be a better person for it, because you learn by failing. I think we talked about failure already. You learn from failure.
Jason, last words about motivation.
So what keeps me motivated kind of in my role? There's a lot of things. People that know me, they like to know that I like to tinker and experiment and tinker again and experiment. So I like complex problems and kind of looking at solutions to find them. So that keeps me personally motivated. But also, because I've been at Vineland for 12 years, I've seen a lot of people kind of grow into the industry and move on. And so I've had a lot of employees that have been with me for 2 years, and then they've kind of moved on to a different industry. Same field, like that, when they stay in the same field. But I've seen a lot of people grow and develop and then kind of bring their skill sets in. So I love seeing how people's trajectories go. And a lot of people find a lot of my employees get poached by other companies, and that's all right with me, as long as they go to a good place.
Yeah.
So I love seeing that happen.
Love it. Awesome. Okay, so we have one final question for everybody, and then we're going to turn it over to the audience for questions from you. So now's the time to start thinking about what you want to ask. But the question for all of you, and I'm going to start with you, Jason, if you were to write a kind of like a Dear First Year Me question or letter to yourselves, and Allegra, this could just be what you're telling yourself right now. What advice would you give to yourself when you started out as a new professional? So Jason, I'll start off with you.
This one was a tough one, and I didn't know how to answer it. I know my answer was more centered around me and who I am as a person. And I think what my biggest thing that I would tell myself is don't change who you are in your position. And I'm a quirky scientist. I like to have fun. I learn best when I'm having fun. I love experimenting and I love trialing out things. So not changing who you are, because you're going to change over time, but keeping those core skills. So kind of the person that I looked up to the most was my supervisor, Julian Ahern, when he was my professor for my master's. And he was very similar to me, but we would have races to build a map, and whoever lost had to buy the coffee. So we would just have fun while we were doing work. We would time ourselves going up mountains when we were collecting water samples. And so when I saw him and how he was professional but also fun at the same time, that's kind of who I wanted to be when I was kind of all grown up.
I love it. That was kind of the advice given to me as well. Just be yourself. Yeah. That's why we hired you, to be you.
Exactly.
So, Erin.
Yeah, I guess I kind of took an opposite approach to Jason in terms of writing the letter for me. I was like kind of looking what I've done that helped me be successful. And I think the number one thing is sort of knowing your worth when, you know, you've gotten everything you can out of your current position and, you know that maybe it is time to move on and continue building your network. And also never say no to any opportunity, particularly like a learning opportunity at work. Some people, we take on a lot of co-op students, and I've had situations where, I've been essentially asking a student, but really telling them to do it. And they've said, no, actually, I don't think I want to do that. But it's an opportunity to go to a different Walker site, to learn about their practices, to do more project development. And I was shocked, and I was, oh, okay, let me rephrase this. So please always be open to new learning, know your worth, and know yourself, and stay passionate.
That's like almost exactly what I was saying. Being in a new professional and everything, something that I always I'll continue to tell myself is, go out of your way to try something new, even if you think you're going to hate it, because you don't know what you're going to like until you experience it. Like, you have an idea of what you want to do, you have an idea of what you like. It's great to know your strengths, but at the same time, I ask myself, like, okay, do I like this? Do I like what I'm doing because I actually like what I'm doing? Or do I like it because it's the only thing I've done? So kind of forcing myself to go out and try new things, even if it makes me uncomfortable. Like, I had to plant trees. Well, I didn't have to. I volunteered to plant trees once, and it was like really difficult.
Why am I out here sweating doing this?
It gets easier the more trees you plant, right?
Yeah, that's what they tell me. I never stop seeking out new opportunities to learn something. So if I know that there is a particular area that I'm not as knowledgeable in, and I have if I think that it's going to be useful for me to know, like if it's going to help me in my early stages of my career, then yeah, I'm going to do whatever I can to learn more about it. So like Coursera, or even just like YouTube videos can help a ton. And something else that I tell myself too is, as I'm trying these new things, I have to give myself permission to move on from it if it's something that I learned that I don't want to do, So, give yourself permission to admit something when something's not right for you, and not force yourself to stick with it if you don't want to.
So I would probably say all those things. And the other thing that I would say in my letter is not to be afraid to challenge societal norms and the rules. I mean, it's walking a fine line. There's so many, I'm not saying go through red lights. It's challenging things like limitations based on gender, limitations based on ethnic background, those kind of, things that limit that society expects you to, the position society expects you to hold. Be prepared to challenge those. March to the beat of your own drum, take the road less traveled, those kind of things. But you've got to be strategic about it and think it through, because I know that there are risks to doing things like that, and you do it a little bit at a time. You do it incrementally, and the more you do it, the more you can do it. But be prepared to challenge those. Don't let anybody hold you back because of the way society thinks you should be. And you'll find new opportunities that you never knew existed. And it won't be easy, because society will push back on you challenging those norms. But like I say, you have to do it incrementally and quietly, I would say, but still do it.
Yeah, I just want to add, I think it's important as the old professor on the panel to point out the Jason's Be Yourself, and we are at BU, so be you. The cheesy professor joke. But what I want to circle back to is I think a really important point. Allegra started off the conversation talking about these little roles that she has or that she does because she's new, and you will be too, or maybe you've already started a role that you're new in, and I totally appreciate where you're coming from, and I think we want to not underestimate how much impact you do, new or not, but especially new, that you do have in the workplace. So I work with Allegra today. I connect with the NPCA around a couple different fronts, right? And something that you do that's really important is you communicate with a broad range of people. And you cited some examples, sharing the files across different platforms and writing emails, right? And I think it's really important to note that those skills, when we talk about these things in our classes, right, that those small little things have such incredible impact because you're setting agendas, you're setting the tasks that people will do, you're following up with the notes. This is what we kind of shared in this meeting, and the outcomes. The outcomes are so important, right? Think about all the wasted hours if you maybe were, going through school in the 1900s, right? And think of the amount of money, the cost of agendas, action items that never were realized because no one thought to record it and no one put a name to that task and a time frame that would happen, right? And that you do, first of all, you do really well.
Oh,
you do really well. So don't forget that those kind of jobs that you come into the workspace, and maybe it's not the, that sort of higher level job where you're getting all the emails. That's not how it happens, right? I didn't get to the role I'm in now yesterday. This is built over a very, very, very long time.
Yeah, I'll just echo that. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, you gotta keep the momentum going, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll just echo that, and we use a lot of technicians, in my department, and they are pivotal. We wouldn't accomplish anything, and those technicians are usually fresh out of school, and actually we just promoted, we had one technician in the position for a year, maybe even less than a year, and because that technician showed drive, and he was engaged at work, and he was had a vested interest in the products and what we did. We actually promoted him to a sales rep, and it was a huge promotion with him. And so if you in your mind think, oh man, this is such a small meeting, it is not meaningless. Every job in a company is strategically thought out, and you can make an impact. And if you're proving to your boss that you're engaged, and you also have a good manager, they will move you along and continue that professional development for you because they want you to succeed as well.
Or they will let you go if you're not performing either.
100, yes, also.
Mm-hmm.
I can attest to that because I have promoted people and let people go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to turn it over to the audience now for questions. I know we still have some people online, and I don't know if the comments are working on the live size, but if the people online do have questions, you do also have my email address, and I believe you might have Erin's as well. So if you have a question, please send it to us by email and we can read it out. But while we're waiting for those to come through, I'm going to turn it over to the members of the audience. If there's any questions burning in your minds that you would like to ask our panelists, either one specific individual or all of them.
Yeah, I have a lot.
Great. We're here till 6.
I'll start with some easy ones. So I'm going to go with a blanket assumption, aside from maybe Allegra, because you're brand new, but I assume you all have hired someone at some point in your career. when hiring, or in Allegra's case, being hired, what is the most important thing that you or your employer looked for in a candidate? And you can't answer communication because we already said that one earlier in the day.
I'll start. Please don't lie in your resume. Yeah. Please don't, elaborate or hyper bowl on your resume. I have actually just recently caught a couple people out on blatantly lying on their resumes. And that's it, you're done. Because I asked a very good question I asked in the interview was about what the lie was in the resume, and it shut the interview down completely. Besides that, it seems like it's something that you shouldn't have to say.
But you do.
But you do, yeah, because people try to embellish. Don't even embellish. Because if you've got a savvy person interviewing you, they're going to be able to pick it up. Other thing I look for in a resume, I notice gaps, okay? And that's not a bad thing, but it's a question I'm gonna ask if there's a gap, like a big gap, not a couple months, but a couple years. Or if you've jumped from one place to another in a couple of months, like if you show me 5 different companies you've worked for or 5 different positions you've had in less than 5 years, that's another flag. And I know that that's a little bit tough right now because a lot of the jobs you get are short-term contracts. But over the course of time, you want to start spending longer and longer periods in the same place. I want you to be able to demonstrate to me that you've read the job posting and kind of looked at my website to get an idea. Don't copy and paste from my website, or don't copy and paste from the job posting, but try to show that you've engaged a little bit.
Yeah, I'll say that we hire a lot of people, and I've been through all sorts of interviews. Know what the company is, do the background research, and try to make a correlation between what the mission or objectives of the company are, if those are available on their website, and how that role fits into it. And then you can answer questions responsibly. The best interviews I've had with people, they come prepared with a list of questions. One girl opened it up and she had this list, and I wanted to be like, you're hired, man. So organized and prepared. They could list off all these things. It's super impressive, because we'll get for entry-level technician jobs, 183 was our last count. And I know this is really bad to say too, but the faster you can apply, especially if it's an ununionized position, I'm stopping to look after 20 resumes because they are all so similar. So how do you differentiate yourself? It is in that interview, and it is being prepared and engaging with that interviewer. And I know it's really hard to say, but if you can practice too, because it's really when someone is petrified, it's are you gonna because you also want someone that you can relate to, because I like to have, Jason and I actually used to work together, and when he said having fun, we used to just laugh all day. So it's you want to have fun in that workplace, so how can you relate to that interviewer, their person too, and just approach it from that aspect. Be professional, 100%, but also be yourself and be, approachable and engaging during the interview, and be prepared. That's 100% it.
And another thing is having a cover letter. A lot of people don't have cover letters anymore,
Or they're generic.
And
Which is almost worse than having no cover letter. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
no, and that's really important, because one of the things that we're looking for is writing style. And so that cover letter is the best way to learn someone's writing style from the initial stages. And when I say a lot of people don't have cover letters, a lot don't have.
And don't AI it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I disagree with that. I disagree with that. Yeah, we actually have a policy at work. We use AI to sort resumes, so we are enabling candidates to use AI. If you were just creating a resume based on an AI sorter, there is absolutely, you can use it. That's our preference. And I'd also say, for someone starting out for you too, it's totally fine to have multiple jobs. It's just a difference in opinion, I think. But maybe not for every job. So
because
I'm not giving consistent.
I don't want a letter completely written, copy and pasted from ChatGPT. I want you to use, oh, you can tell. Oh, I can tell. Believe me.
So one thing I will chip in here, because I love this discussion, but one of the big things here, and this kind of ties to the question that you're asking, is you're going to get differences of opinions when you talk to different employers. So coming to networking events like this helps you understand that, hey, if I'm applying to Walker, this is what they're looking for. If I'm applying to VISTA, this is what they're looking for. And you're going to find the more research you do into different companies is their processes are going to be completely different. So now you have that knowledge in your head that, yeah, when I'm applying to Erin, who I know is going to be a great manager, we're going to have fun, but I also know I need to make sure whether my cover letter is written by myself or by AI, it needs to incorporate all these different elements. But if I'm applying to VISTA and I want to work with Amy, I need to make sure that I'm hitting this, and this. And so understanding those different perspectives from different companies, this is why we do these kinds of panels and discussions, so you can learn these different perspectives. It's not that one is completely right and one is completely wrong. It's this is how this company views things, and this is what their process is.
I will say something really important. As of January 1st, our HR department has just told us they have to disclose on the job posting if they are using AI and whether or not that AI will be used to judge your resume. Yeah. And most companies now have agreed it's unfair to impose those rules on a candidate when we're doing that to screen all the emails. So really, it's just evolving. It's learning those new skill sets. There's a difference to me between someone linking the Walker website and saying, write a cover letter based on that, for you formulating in your AI, this is how I want it to go, and then it can make it more professional, because we use these tools every day at work, and they're just being integrated into our lives more, so why not impart that ability to do so on potential candidates?
Can I find one more thing? Sorry.
Yeah, I see your hand up, so we'll come to you just 1 second. We'll let Jason go first.
And I think that this is a big challenge for kind of young professionals going into the industry. Every company is so different. The questions, like if you're looking at questions that I'll ask in an interview, I usually want someone the opposite of me. I don't want a replicate of myself. I can train the person to do what I can do, but I need someone that takes on my weaknesses and it's their skills. And so the people that I hire, it's kind of a chain of weird operation, but it'll be like kind of me, and then the person that's right beside me is not the pretty polar opposite. And so I need someone that can challenge me, can say no to me, like say no, it's a terrible idea, and things like that. Someone that can push me, because a lot of the big things that we're doing are research. I don't have all the answers, and so I need someone to debate with me. And then following that person, they need someone that's the opposite of them. And so it's hard on hiring process, because usually you're looking for someone that is kind of the right candidate for you as an employer.
There was a hand at the very back.
I just wanted to build on this discussion. I'm wondering, what do you guys find is the difference between a generic cover letter and a standout cover letter? How do you sort through them?
Jason, you love cover letters, so.
Ironically, so if I was looking at the content is important, so giving past experiences and that. But what I look for is sentence structure, punctuation, and writing style. Is it too many words that could be condensed down into fewer? So a lot of it is that, because the interview process, I'm going to try to pick up a lot more information. But the first read, we write so many reports that we need someone right from the get-go that has a good sense of writing. We'll teach how to adapt to our writing style once we hire, but we need someone with a good sense. So usually if it reads well, has good punctuation, grammar, structure, that's kind of the first key for me.
And that can be the hard piece with AI, because AI will give you perfect grammar, it will give you perfect punctuation, but the sentence structure is one of the telltales, because AI loves to throw in these lovely superfluous words that read completely, it's like, why are you saying this word which hasn't been used since the 1880s?
Yeah.
But AI loves those kinds of words.
And AI likes dashes.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. That is like the one way you can tell AI is how many dashes there are.
And for me, in terms of a specific cover letter, I'm looking for you to give me specific examples of how you meet the requirements I've laid out in the job posting. Don't tell me I have great time management skills. Don't tell me, you know, I've written all kinds of reports. Give me an example. I've written this X report, or, you know, my time management skills, I did this. This project went off the rails and I managed to get it back on and meet the timelines, that kind of thing. I don't, you know, because if you give me vagueness, I really can't assess your compatibility with the job.
Yeah, and I'd also say, like, we get so many cover letters that are just saying, like, I've done 40 hours of lab work, I've done titrations, I've done this, and it's like, you should say, like, my skill set of titrations was applicable to this job because I can help you by doing X, Y, Z. Just don't have a laundry list of your skills related back to the actual job.
Yeah.
But I will also say, too, cover letters, we don't even require them anymore, so we would have like 1 or 2 screening questions. So it is, I know this is like really confusing advice, but yeah, I guess that's just part of the job hunt, is really tailoring it to. But if you are writing a cover letter, just for the love of God, relate it back to the job description.
If the job posting says submit a cover letter and a resume, submit a cover letter.
Yes, yeah.
And I don't know if this is about, I used LinkedIn posting once for a job, and I had people who just used their LinkedIn resume. Please don't.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
Can I speak to this?
Yeah.
Erin, you actually almost answered what I was going to say completely. So I want to appreciate you and Walker for acknowledging what our changes are coming to the job boards. I'm with Co-op Career and Experiential Education, by the way. One of our standards are following the Ontario employment laws, and there are going to be changes to the job postings. So as Erin said, if they're using AI with their company, they have to disclose that, and that's going to be something that on our job boards at Brock we do indicate as well. So that could give you a good insight to, okay, this employer does use AI, so maybe using AI is not necessarily the wrong advice here. And I think speaking to kind of maybe the marriage of those two different ideas, don't let AI replace you or what you're trying to do. Let it help you.
100%.
Be authentic, but don't let it replace what you do. And that's when you can really tell. The second thing I'll say too, and maybe speaking more to the panel, we do post on our job board. We have on our different job postings indicators where, like, if Erin wants to post a job with us, here's a resume. I require a resume. I require a cover letter. I require a transcript. Those things can be checked on and off. So working with Brock can help that. To the students in the audience too, look for those things in our job postings, because when employers are filling out our job postings on Career Zone, it's very specific. And I think if you just look into the details of what they're looking for, whether they're using AI, whether they want a cover letter or not, all of those details are really important. And so, and any employers that want to post with us, we're very happy to work with you.
Any other questions? I know you had a couple more. I don't know if we've answered a whole bunch of them already.
I have many more, but like other people should have the opportunity.
We have a question here.
Oh, yeah.
How much do you value like certifications and all of that stuff? Like, does it matter if someone is a PMP? Is that stand out for you? Is that worth it? Or what does that tell you about that person? Would you recommend someone spending their time on that and money? Because it is costly to get these certifications as well.
That's a really tricky one. Certifications are incredibly valuable, but my suggestion is always to get real life experience. And then when you're working with the job, be like, hey, employer, I'd love to get my PMP. Want to throw me some cash?
Yeah.
And 90% of the time they will. And then you can actually build on real life experience, what you're doing at work, and apply that. If I see a candidate that's just like bachelor's, master's, PMP, post-grad at a Niagara college, but no work experience, you're still not gonna have that skill set that we need, right? Like the PMP is about understanding real world challenges of project management. I would say wait until you've got a few years under your belt.
I agree. Yeah, wait, save the certifications until you've got some experience and get your employer to pay for them.
I agree with that. I think, yeah, get the employer to pay for it. It's skill sets that you'll learn on the job that I kind of look for. And so I don't mind if I've taken people from one industry and then put them in my industry because they have the skill sets that I need. And so.
I could just chime in too, Melissa Beamer from Co-op from Career Education. And I would also say as well, a lot of times when you're in those courses, if you have no work experience, you don't appreciate the content of the course and you actually almost can't do the work that you need to do because you have no practical, real world experience to apply. Tell us about a time when you managed a project or use an example of a project. Oh, I've never done that before, right? Whereas if you're in the workplace, it will just, all of it will pull together a lot.
And the other piece that I will throw in as well is, and this is something that students, particularly when they're going for their first role, often don't think about, is when you're looking at, when you're going through the interview process and you get the offer, make sure you take time to read through the offer letter and look at all the different things that are part of it, because upfront that offer letter will say, in terms of what the employer will pay for, in terms of professional development and things like that. So you can see right up front of the glance, that, oh yes, this employer will pay X amount towards professional designations or certifications, or they'll talk about time flex or whatever the case may be. So making sure you actually spend time going through that offer letter for that, but also for other reasons as well, because it's always important to check that fine print. It's something that students don't think about with their first 1 or 2 jobs, and then they get burnt and they're like, oh wait, now I need to do this. So, it's always important to check that offer letter to make sure you understand what you're signing.
And ask about it in the interview.
Yeah.
Because that makes you look super engaged, like what professional, I'm interested in doing my PMP. Is that something that Walker would support? And you're like, wow, man, she loves project management. So that also is a really engaging piece to ask in the interview.
Yeah, so earlier, Allegra mentioned being motivated by seeing successes of others around her, and that just kind of prompted a thought from me about the idea of success. What is it? How do you define it? So I just wanted to pose the question to the group here is, how do you define success in your role? What does it look like? Or it could be success of your team. How do you define that? What is it like for you at this point in your careers?
Like personally or professionally? Professionally?
I would say professionally in this setting.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I don't know, professionally, I'm going to default on this. Obviously, like even with my manager, I have a list of goals that I am set to achieve, right? And so working towards those, and having that professional development pathway is success in terms of a professional realm. But I also think like personal success is defined like it is so independent. Some people, I remember in my undergrad, some girl was like, oh, I'm going to be married by 30 and executive VP by 35 and like whatever, right? You can define your own vision of personal success and don't let someone else's career path influence what you view as being successful. Like if your goal is to go to a job every day and feel good that you're making a difference for the earth and for sustainability initiatives and have a work-life balance, that is just as legitimate as someone who strives to be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company with absolutely no work-life balance. So I think defining success is inherently personal. Yeah.
I think, so for corporate-wise, usually we have like a list of goals, metrics that we always work on. But for me, I sit down with every single employee that I have every week to go over what their weekly success is, because that's one of the big things that I've learned is one person's success could be completely different than another person. And so learning from what an employee views as success and then highlighting that is kind of the big thing. So I know for me, my professor did that for me the first time, and my greatest success was the first samples I collected for soil. And that was a huge highlight for me, and he celebrated that with me. And that's a key memory that I have. And so success for me as a leader is what really the employee feels as success and how they contributed to a project or contributed to a task. And so everyone feels that they're part of the process. And Vineland does a lot of research, not for the sake of research, is for acceptance. But when I first started, our CEO had a cheesy line, but it did sell me, and it was putting a person on the moon. And so everyone in NASA had a role to do, whether it be the person that answered phones to the person that helped build the rocket. They all said they were putting a person on the moon. And so that's how I kind of view it. And so when I train a lot of employees, I want to make sure that they are a part of that success and process and they see that. And I have to learn kind of how they view it.
I agree. I think success is very personal. Everyone has their own, idea of what that means and what it looks like for them. For me, I think, in my position, like so I said at the very beginning when we first started the panel that this is my second contract with the Conservation Authority. So my first contract, which I had the option of extending and I chose not to because I wanted to see what else was out there. So when I first took that position, I wanted to get my feet wet, and I did that. So I would say I was successful in doing that. And when I came back, I'm like, okay, I miss it. I want to try it again. And this time I want to go into it with the intention of staying long-term. So change your perspective on things. It'll change your work ethic as well. Because before I think, and I only realized this, like looking back on it now, when I was during my first contract, it wasn't that I was trying, I was trying hard, but it was also, okay, this is my co-op. I'm doing my co-op for my degree. It was a different, and now it's like I have a different mindset. It's like, okay, I'm doing this now because I want to stay in this profession, not because I have to do it for my co-op, not because I have to do it to get my degree. So I'm doing it because I want to start, and this is how it has to happen. So tying it back to, what I think successful means is that you don't know. It's hard to measure success until later on, until after something has happened, So, yeah, what I'm doing is working now. I'm sure in 5 years' time I'll be able to look back and be like, yeah, I've succeeded in doing that and staying in this profession and making my mark. So.
And I think success looks different at every different stage of your life as well. Like I've been working now at Brock for just over 10 years now, but in this particular role, I've been in this particular role since May. So how do I define success in this role is completely different to how I would define success in a different role. And so I think that's one of those questions when you say, what is success? It does become very personalized, even though it is linked to professional metrics, because every stage is different. And so what success looks like for me right now is going to be different from what it looked like 5 years ago, and it will be different from what it looks like in 5 years' time as well. So I get that sense of, what am I working towards? Am I actually successful? Or in 5 years' time, will I be able to look back and say, yeah, actually, no, I was successful in that part. And then realizing, am I going to be successful in the next 5 years? And kind of rethink that as what success is again from that perspective.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, is your view of success changes as you move on in life.
You know what's really important though too, I think, this is really interesting because I don't often think about my success in my role. I think about the team's success, you know? It's really interesting because a lot of what we do is working with other people. And I do spend a lot of time thinking about how are we working as a team and how are we succeeding, you know what I mean? Collectively, how are we succeeding? And how am I either hindering the success of the team or contributing, right? So something I think of too, so it's an interesting question, Chikir, but I think it's worth, you know, it comes back to my EDIA piece, and like for me, success is that the group feels or the team feels that they're valued, that they're appreciated, that they can be heard, and that they're safe in that space, and that they know that I would have their back. And yeah, so this is really interesting for me. And for me, that's how I define success. I don't often think about my own success, maybe because I'm always saying, if you feel comfortable, Marilyne, that's not a good thing. So you need to move into spaces that make you uncomfortable, right? And that could be I do something differently, I challenge the way I'm thinking about something, but so that I'm never just complacent and settling and just doing the thing to do the thing. I'm really having impact and contributing in a valuable way. So maybe that's part of the reason I look more to how is the group doing, you know? And that's, yeah.
I love it. It is 4:46 then, 4:47, so I do want to be respectful for the individuals that are online. I know some of them have to go because of class. I know people still have a lot of questions, but this is the great time for us to break into the networking portion, so we can ask questions directly to the individuals as well. I do want to say thank you once again to our panelists. We do have some gifts for you as well, which are going to be presented by the lovely Sophie, but we do, again, just want to say thank you for your time, your energy, your words of wisdom to everybody today. Essentially, the networking is just stand up and chat with one another. I encourage you to talk to our panelists, but also we have other individuals from, you know, myself and Sophia and Shakir from CCEE. We have other individuals from the program as well, so feel free to chat with everybody. We have good snacks and goodies, so please take that stuff as well. You're all starving students and academics, so take the stuff with you. We understand that. And yes, thank you again, everyone, for joining.
Thank you.